Well, good morning. I'm Alderman Michael Murphy, and welcome to the Bradley Center here at the Performing Arts Center. Unfortunately, our Common Council chambers, where we normally hold this event, is under restoration. We're joined this morning by a very distinguished panel. I'm going to begin with introducing our mayor, Mayor Tom Barrett from the city of Milwaukee, Mayor Dan Devine from the mayor of West Dallas. We also are fortunate to be joined by a number of people from Galway and other parts of Ireland, beginning with Patricia Philbin, who's the CEO of Galway 2000. We also have Cathal Crowe, who is the mayor of County Clare. In addition, we have Kieran Cannon, who's the TD Minister of State of Diaspora and International Development, Billy Lawless, who's been here before, as Senator for the Irish Diaspora, and Michael Cubbard, also the mayor of Galway City, and we have the mayor of County Galway also. So we're very pleased to have all of the individuals here this evening, and this is really a special event. Many of you, though, must feel like this is deja vu. It's been here for many years. Irish Fest has played a key role in the development of the continuation of the Irish cultural heritage and Celtic in general, but they've played an extremely important role in bringing over Irish musicians and talent to our city and to our country. So I specifically like to recognize the president of Irish Fest, Linda Clark-Libetz. Linda's hopefully still here. Hi, Linda, nice to see you. Also Colleen Kennedy, who's been an integral role in this development. And I also like to recognize Keith Finnegan, who's recently was last night recognized for his work with the Spirit of Galway. And we are really so pleased with the Spirit of Galway because it's been in working with the Irish Fest for the last 25 years. It played a leading role in creating a twinning city, a sister city between Milwaukee and Galway. And I can tell you from my experience, my parents are from Dublin, Ireland, so I obviously have a special place for Dublin, but Galway is really the place in the heart of Ireland in many respects. It has the great culture. In fact, it is known as the heart of the culture of Ireland. In addition, it is now going to be recognized by the European Union in 2020 as the cultural capital of Europe. So it's a very exciting time for Galway, and we're happy to see that Milwaukee can play a small role in promoting tourism to Galway and supporting development of business in Galway and the international cooperation between our two communities. Let me introduce you to our mayor, who is graciously agreed to be here today. He has a very busy schedule these last few weeks, and I'm very pleased to recognize him. He previously was a state assemblyman, a state senator, a United States congressman, and has served in the mayor for over coming up 14 years. And so we're very honored to have him here this morning, Mayor Tom Barrett.
Thank you very much, Alderman Murphy. Welcome to Milwaukee. We are delighted you are here. This is one of the special times of the year for me personally, as well as for the entire city. And I want to begin by acknowledging Alderman Murphy and his leadership in what he's doing, not just on the council, but in many ways, he's our city's Secretary of State. Obviously hosting you, but he does this with other groups as well. And he does a wonderful job. He takes a large view of the city, takes a large view of the world. And I think that's something that's important at this time on our planet's history. And I just want to take a minute and talk about why I think this cultural exchange and this long-standing friendship is so important. I don't think there's anybody on our side of the ocean or your side of the ocean that doesn't recognize the tumultuous state of affairs with our nation's leaders throughout the world. And I'm disturbed by the fact that for many people, they view the road to success as a road that is paved by a divided highway, pitting one group against another, one nationality against another. That is not the philosophy that I espouse. I think that we're all here on this planet, and we all want to find a way to get through our lives. And in my job, I have the honor, and I mean that sincerely, the honor of going to every neighborhood. And during the summer, I have a program called Walk 100 Miles in 100 Days. And I go with different neighborhood groups in every part of the city. So there's wealthy neighborhoods, there's very poor neighborhoods, there's African American neighborhoods, there's Hispanic neighborhoods, there are Caucasian neighborhoods. I walked with the Hmong school that's here. And what I found in every single neighborhood is people who love their kids and want them to get a good education. In every single neighborhood, I find people who want to have jobs where they can support their families. And in every single neighborhood, I find families who want to be safe. And I talk about that as the common denominator for our city, but I think it's really a microcosm of a common denominator of who we are as human beings. No matter where we live, we all want the same thing. We all want our kids to be safe, we want to have a job, and we want them to get a good education. And this notion that somehow we succeed in doing that by demeaning other people or pitting people against each other is just anathema to me. So I see what we've been doing here now for well over a quarter of a century between the city of Milwaukee and our Irish friends is trying to build something, trying to build relationships, trying to build trust, trying to build understanding, because the more we do that, I think the stronger our bond is, and I think the stronger we are and the stronger you are. So I enjoy this immensely. It's also the one time of year, every single year I bartend. I call it my honest job. And I've enjoyed that, and it's the one time each year that I tell my security ahead of time, you might just want to be careful, I'm going to have a couple of beers. Doesn't mean it's the only time, but it's a time I can predict that I will. Much to the chagrin of Irish Fest, because I think they've lost hundreds of dollars as me as a bartender as a result of that. So again, I welcome you to this city. I do apologize. As Mike said, this is sort of a crazy, crazy, crazy time right now. But I wanted to be here to welcome you and to tell you, stop by the booth today and let's have a little chat. So again, thank you for being here. Thank you.
Our next speaker is a gentleman who's been here before, and that's Karen Cannon, who is now the Minister of State for Diaspora and International Development. We're very fortunate to have Karen in there, and if you could just please join us for a few words.
Thank you, Michael. Mayor Barrett, Mayor Devine, Senator Lawless, Mayors Cubbard, McLaren, Crossan and Crow, which begs the question, what is the collective term for a group of mayors? I'm not too sure, but someone might inform us later on. Alderman Murphy, Bishop Kelly, councillors and distinguished guests. As Mike said, my first visit to the US as Ireland's Minister for the Diaspora was to this wonderful festival, was to this wonderful city. So I'm delighted to be back again 2 years later. I'm also delighted that this year the festival is showcasing the extraordinarily rich culture of the place I call home, the county and the city of Galway on the west coast of Ireland. Galway is gearing up to be the European City of Culture in 2020, and this festival, this event, is a wonderful opportunity to showcase Galway's vibrant cultural scene, of which we are all so proud, and to showcase that, to hang it out in its brightest colours to those people who attend the Milwaukee Irish Fest. And it's great also to see Donegal, Mayo and Clare so ably represented here also. The West Coast has essentially come to the Midwest from the shores of the Atlantic to the beautiful shores of Lake Michigan. Dear friends, this year, 2019, we marked the centenary of the first Dáil Éireann, the first Parliament of Ireland. That Dáil, it convened in the Mansion House in Dublin and comprised a group of newly elected people, elected to the British Parliament in Westminster, but who chose instead to meet in Dublin. In 1919, remember that Ireland was still part of the United Kingdom, so that Dáil Éireann Parliament was without any recognition by Britain or indeed by the world. And during the meeting, that group asserted Ireland's nationhood and also Ireland's openness to the world, describing Ireland as a gateway to the Atlantic and a point on which trade routes between East and West converge. And 100 years later, Ireland's Parliament is recognised. We have achieved our independence. We have taken our seat amongst the nations of the world. No country did more to realise that ambition than this country. The United States, as well as helping Ireland to achieve its independence, also helped to secure peace on our island, with support from successive US administrations leading to that extraordinarily precious peace ushered in by the Good Friday Agreement signed in Belfast 21 years ago. And I was just remarking to a friend of mine who lives on this side of the Atlantic some weeks ago that any of us of my generation who grew up in Ireland during the 50s, 60s and 70s have a very, very strong recollection of the horrendous atrocities committed day after day almost, the extraordinary conflict that existed between two communities that lived side by side in Northern Ireland. Remarking that our children now, my son who's 23, all of us who have children of that generation have no understanding and thankfully no recollection of that horrendous time in our history. And that's all down to the work of those extraordinary people who brokered that peace, which, as I say, we now celebrate the 21st anniversary. Ireland's openness to the world, as articulated by my predecessors in Dáil Éireann, that openness remains our calling card. And you might be happy to learn that I don't propose to speak at length about Brexit, but I will say that Britain's decision to leave the European Union has galvanised our resolve to be even more open to the world and always to look outwards instead of inwards. We helped to build the European Union. It has enhanced peace and prosperity in our country. We also remain committed members of the United Nations. We are seeking a seat on the UN Security Council next year, the very, very top table of the UN system. And in these uncertain and challenging times, being a member of the UN Security Council will not be easy. But while we are a small country, we are a global island, and we have always believed that peace and prosperity around the world is best served by countries working together. As Mayor Barrett remarked, we are stronger together than we are divided. And if Ireland is elected to the UN Security Council, we will bring the experience of our journey as a small island that faced great poverty, incredible migration and deprivation, and which succeeded in becoming an outward-looking, prosperous and independent country. Our culture is also one of our calling cards, and I've no doubt that we're going to see a lot of shamrocks over the weekend, but our national symbol is not the shamrock, it is the harp. And as a musician myself, I'm very, very proud of that fact. In fact, we are the only country in the world that has a musical instrument as its national symbol. It is a tool of communication. It is a nod to our great bards and storytellers of the past. And for each of us, and for the island of Ireland as a whole, the Irish Fest is a wonderful promotional opportunity, showcasing all that is great, all that we are proud of in our arts, our heritage and our culture. And we are delighted that the biggest Irish festival in these United States should have its home here in the city of festivals. And dear friends, one of the most powerful things that struck me upon my first visit to the US in this role to Milwaukee 2 years ago was the tangible, palpable strength of our diaspora here in the Midwest. To see thousands of people wearing green and to meet so many people who were so enthusiastic about our people, our country, our traditions, our culture, our heritage was truly humbling. The Constitution of Ireland, it specifically cherishes our special affinity with people of Irish ancestry living abroad who share its cultural identity and its heritage. And the fact that the government appointed a senator for the diaspora, my dear friend, Senator Billy Lawless, that bears testament to our commitment to our diaspora here in the United States. Billy was the first senator ever to be based outside of Ireland, and it is no coincidence that he's based here in the Midwest. Some 8 million people of the overall 32 million people that claim Irish heritage in the US are based in the 12 states that make up the Midwest region covered by the consulate. And this festival is clearly a real focal point for that diaspora. I know that the festival has also had a tremendously positive impact for the local community and the local economy, as well as maintaining those long-standing and deep relationships between Ireland, the US, and particularly between Milwaukee and Galway. In my time as Minister for the Diaspora, I've experienced at firsthand how blessed we are with strong, dynamic communities right across the United States. But nowhere is Irish culture and heritage more celebrated, more feted than here in Milwaukee. I want to say a very, very special thanks to Ed Ward, the founder of Irish Fest, to Linda Klibowitz, the chair, to Mike Mitchell, the executive director, to Colleen Kennedy, the diplomatic liaison and golf car pilot extraordinaire, and all the committee members, and the 4,000 volunteers who just come out of the woodwork every year to say, I want to be part of this extraordinary celebration of Irish culture and Irish heritage. I salute the Mayor and the Council and the people of Milwaukee for supporting the festival. I also want to thank the Sister Cities Committee, particularly Keith and Joan Finnegan, and my friend and neighbour Clem Walsh for the work that they have done over the years in keeping that really special relationship between Milwaukee and Galway so vibrant and so strong. As a member of the Irish government and as an artist and a musician, I recognise the importance of the opportunity that Milwaukee Irish Fest offers to musicians to showcase our wonderful culture and to interact with musicians from around Ireland and indeed around the world, and thus evolve that tradition, strengthen it, make it relevant for a whole new generation. That is incredibly valuable work, and I thank each and every one of you for making that work happen year in, year out. Guramahav Galera Accordia, thank you very, very much indeed, and I look forward to meeting you all over what will be an extraordinary celebration of Irish culture over the next 3 days. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Minister. And he did a great introduction of Billy Lawless. Billy has been a longtime friend of Irish Fest in Milwaukee. He represents the diaspora with great acclaim and dignity. We're very fortunate to have him here. He's also, we're joined also by the Brian O'Brien, who's the Consul General of Chicago, who does an outstanding job for the Irish government. We're very pleased to have him here with his family. In addition, we also have the British Vice Consul Eileen Dunn here. We're very thrilled to have her also. And I also failed to mention, I want to thank the Minister for recognizing, but my apologies for not recognizing Bishop Brendan Kelly, the Diocese of Galway. Obviously, I want to say thank to see my good friend Donald Lyons here with his family, and the Mayor of County Donegal. Good to have him here, Martin McLaughlin. Billy, if you would like to say a few words.
Thank you, Mike. Good morning, Mr. Mayor, Alderman Murphy, Mayor Cubbert, and all the mayors. There are too many to mention. You're all very welcome here. I am delighted to be here today to mark the opening of the Milwaukee Fest, one of the largest Irish festivals in the world. And I want to thank you on behalf of the Irish government and the Irish people for always your warm Milwaukee welcome. America has always been a very safe haven for us Irish immigrants who fled the famine and persecution in their homeland. And Milwaukee has been a magnet to generations of Irish men and women seeking a better life for their families. Back in the 1930s, the majority of the Irish worked as labourers or domestic servants in this city, or established small farmsteads in the surrounding areas. Wisconsin being a huge milk-producing state, I have a special affinity for milk farmers as I come from dairy background myself. But their story is no different to those of today's immigrants and the refugees coming to America seeking a better life or fleeing violence, persecution and poverty. In Ireland, we make a point of remembering where we came from as a people, understanding that we survived centuries of colonisation and hardship, helps centre us in how we see the world and how we act as a nation in it. The same can be said of the Irish in America. While we have reached the pinnacle of success in every manageable field and sector, Irish Americans remember collectively the cold welcome we received upon first arriving here. The ancestors of JFK and many of you in this chamber were met with hostility and anti-Catholic, anti-immigrant bigotry. The no dogs, no Irish signs were as real as the political parties that rose up to counter the influx of Irish famine refugees who managed to board the coffin ship with barely the shirts on their backs. We were treated just as badly or worse than any of the immigrants from South America arriving here today. I can't help but think of the tragic image recently of the young Central American father and his infant daughter, who drowned trying to cross the Rio Grande into the USA. He was fleeing gang violence with his family to seek refuge on these shores, just as many Irish fathers did in the coffin ships that crossed the Atlantic. Countless Irish parents and their children died from sickness and hunger during that voyage, just like that father and daughter from El Salvador. As immigrants and the survivors of our desperate forefathers who came to this country, we have an obligation to look directly at the problem on the southern border of the United States and see the humanity of equally desperate parents and children willing to trek thousands of miles to reach safety. People do not want to leave their native homes. The famous words on the Statue of Liberty asking to be given the tired and huddled masses seem to ring very hollow when we see the images of migrants separated from their children and detained in filthy border detention centres. As a nation of immigrants and as a standard bearer to the world, I know that America wants and can do better. I remember vividly as a young child seeing President John F. Kennedy on his visit to my hometown of Galway on the 29th of June 1963, the year he was gunned down. And in his address to the people of Galway, President Kennedy stated, "If the day was clear enough and you stood on the shores of Galway Bay, if you looked west and if your sight was good enough, you could see Boston Harbor, Massachusetts." Well, I looked further and saw Chicago and Milwaukee. My sight must have been great back then, I can tell you. Not too good now. But that experience always stayed with me all these years and encouraged my own immigrant journey to the United States, a country where I found the ideals of liberty and justice and opportunity for all. You know, they say that history doesn't repeat itself, but it certainly rhymes. And America ultimately rejected the know-nothing anti-immigrant party that met our ancestors at the docks. And I know she always reverts to act with compassion while recognizing the dignity of each individual. We all stand on the shoulders of giants and are called in every generation to stand up for the most vulnerable amongst us, especially refugees fleeing for their lives. To know where we are going as a people, we must remember always where we came from. And I look forward to seeing many of you at this year's Irish festivities, where we remember our Irish immigrant history and the great personal sacrifices that they made for us. Thank you, Milwaukee, for having Galway as the feature city this year, as Galway is the European Capital of Culture next year. And both Anne and myself are really honoured, always honoured to be here, Alderman and Mayor. And we wish the Festival Committee and the festival just a great weekend. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Senator, and for those inspiring words. I often think of my own family, my parents who immigrated to the United States in 1960 with 2 young children in tow. I was first born here, and they were welcomed here for the most part. But when you look back at the Irish history, Senator indicated that was not always the case. And as we look at the tragedies we see going on in our southern border, it isn't that far long ago. And as I introduce our next speaker, Michael Cupper, the mayor of Galway, Galway has a unique place in that situation. As I recall, in 1831, Galway had a population of 33,000 people. After the potato famine struck, it wasn't until 1980 that it came back to that population of 40,000. And Ireland suffered greatly, and Galway and the West Coast specifically lost many of its brothers and daughters to that tragedy, and they weren't always welcomed. And so I think it's a special point that the Senator raises, that we as the Irish community do have a moral obligation to talk about these issues. I think we have in the United States very short-term memory, which can be very good in some respects, but also not so good. And our country is still a relatively young and new country. When you realize the first mayor that was elected of Galway was in 1485, our country, the New World, wasn't discovered by Columbus till 1492, speaks to the history of Ireland and the youngness of this country. But we're very pleased to have Michael Cubbard here. He's the newly elected mayor of Galway, and obviously we're thrilled to have him representing the city. Mayor?
Thank you, Alderman. Mayor Barrett, Alderman Murphy, Minister Cannon, Senator Lawless, Elvira, Haviri, Cahirley, friends and guests. It's a great honour for me as Mayor of my city to represent Galway here today. The ties between Galway and Milwaukee are well established, and how could they not be with the fine history you have here of brewing your fine beer? Cities like Milwaukee provided Irish men and Irish women with opportunity when we faced our darkest days. The Irish nation has a collective memory of how a friendly ally can offer hope in a time of despair, and how it's so important that those who are in a position to provide refuge to those in crisis do so. Traditionally, America has been the standard bearer in this regard and the land of opportunity. Ireland is a country whose current success now means we are now a destination rather than a source of migrants, understands the role we now must play in a positive light across the world, and based on that Irish experience here in America. There's always been a special two-way relationship between our countries, something that has been mutually beneficial to both of us. This is something that we must continue to maintain and to grow. There was an Irish saying, "Ní art le cóir le chéile," there is strength in unity. There is no strength like working together. This saying evolved from our early Celtic civilization, when our ancestors recognised that to survive in a harsh and changing, unforgiving world, people must work in groups, in tribes, and most importantly, in cooperation. Nothing has changed in this regard. There are numerous opportunities for both our cities to cooperate, and I feel that to date we have not fully exploited those. I hope that from today we can begin to build closer linkages between Galway and Milwaukee, between our commercial sectors, educational institutions, our cultural institutions. As outlined, we have representatives here from Galway 2020. The designation is European Capital of Culture, which Galway holds on behalf of Ireland next year. This is a national designation for Ireland that has at its heart the idea of designating an annual capital of culture to bring Europeans together in highlighting the richness and diversity and showcase Galway on the world stage in a good light. We do not forget that America has a significant influence on the evolution of Irish culture. Events like Irish Fest taking place over the next few days are an example of how Irish culture left our shores, embedded itself within the emerging culture of America, and then returned to us renewed and evolved through our diaspora. We now are in a continuous cycle of how modern Irish culture bears the fingerprints of American influence. U2 would not be U2 without America. Riverdance would not be Riverdance without Michael Flatley. We even now have rappers emerging in the Irish music scene. And still Irish culture continues to grow and continues to work its mystery on American culture. The programme of Galway 2020, which my colleagues will outline and speak on shortly, wishes to capture that aspect of interdependence of cultures throughout the world. Culture is a great tool to facilitate cooperation. Music, art, language, sport, storytelling, all key components of culture have served humankind well as mediums through which people can collaborate. There can be no doubt that the shared use of the English language between Ireland and America is a key reason behind the success to date. The artistic vision of our cultural programme is that it will be authentic to Ireland and to Galway, while presented through a European lens and supported by partners and collaborators in Europe and beyond. The concept of Galway 2020 is making waves. It's about creating new ways of thinking, new ways of working, new conversations and new partnerships aimed at ensuring a more creative Galway. As Minister Cannon outlined, we are looking outward, celebrating our culture with friends from all over the world, including here in the USA, in order to reflect on how we can use culture to prepare for the uncertain futures we may face. We want to use our rich culture to strengthen our ties and linkages with our diaspora and our friends overseas. Therefore, we extend an open invitation to all of you, the people of Milwaukee, to visit Galway next year and take part in our year-long celebration of our culture. Before I finish, I'd like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the support from Minister Kieran Cannon and from Senator Billy Lawless, and the continued support they give to Galway in hosting Galway 2020 next year. They've been invaluable to building the international links that are necessary to make this a global event work in Galway. I want to thank you for hosting us here this morning and for always making Galway people welcome here in Milwaukee. On a personal level, I was thinking when I came up this evening, so this weekend I celebrate 6 years of marriage and I've always believed in love at first sight. And on my first visit to Milwaukee, I've certainly fallen in love with the city, and I will be returning in the future again. Thank you for hosting us this morning. Gar míle maith Claire.
Thank you very much, Mayor. And our next speaker will talk a little bit about Galway 2020. She is the CEO, Patricia Philippin, who gave a wonderful speech last evening. And we want to hear a bit more about the upcoming events in 2020. And I also want to recognize Joan Finnegan, who is also the Secretary for Galway City.
Mayors, Aldermen, Senator, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we are honoured to have the opportunity to represent Galway in Milwaukee Irish Fest, one of the biggest cultural festivals in the world. Galway was chosen to represent Ireland as European Capital of Culture next year. A European Capital of Culture was set up to safeguard and promote the unique cultures right across Europe, and also to raise awareness with the people of Europe of the factors that connect them. Galway is on the westerly edge of Europe, and we very much see it as our opportunity to have Galway as a bridge to the rest of the world as well. So we're using the opportunity to celebrate our shared cultures and values internationally. A European Capital of Culture, we will run our year from February 2020 up until January 2021. Our programme of events will cover everything from art, theatre, sports, food, and everything else in between. So there's something for everybody to celebrate and enjoy. We will have our events not just in our normal cultural infrastructure, but also out in some of our small towns. It will take place on our beaches, on the fields, in our villages and towns, but also in our landscape. So there's a huge opportunity for us in relation to that. We have very strong ties internationally and with our diaspora, and we want to take this opportunity to showcase not just Galway and our region, but also Ireland and the level of connections we have right throughout the world. So we are very proud to have in Milwaukee this festival, some of our musicians, artists, chefs, and writers. So we would welcome you to come and visit them at the various stages and stands throughout the festival. We also have our own Galway stand, so please come up and visit us, and we'll give you some further information in relation to what lies ahead in relation to our programme. We'll launch our programme on the 18th of September, so if you keep an eye out on our website, you will see the level of events and the scale of events that we will be hosting right throughout the year. So we would love to see you in Galway next year. If you can't travel next year, please come the year after. You can also support us on our social media or spread the word in relation to this wonderful opportunity for Galway and Ireland. Thank you.
Well, in conclusion, we have a few gifts to present on behalf of the City of Milwaukee, Mayor Barrett. I'm also joined by the Mayor of West Dallas, Dan Devine. And Mayor, would you like to say just a few words? Go ahead.
Sure. Thanks. Good morning. Thank you for letting me crash your party. I am the Mayor of the City of West Dallas, which is a suburb immediately west of the City of Milwaukee. And I've always had a very strong love for the City of Galway. Been there several times. One of the stories that I always remember is I was there in the mid-90s in Ireland, and I was actually staying in Castlebar in a hostel, and there was, I don't remember if it was hurling or Gaelic football, but there was a match going on, and the Galway supporters really made their presence known at about 3 in the morning. And I think they won, but my roots are in Mayo. I always cheer for Mayo, but when yes, I like your tie. When the Mayo for Sam campaign ends every year, I find it very easy to cheer for Galway. So thank you for having me. Hope you all enjoy your time here and enjoy the festival.
These are get out of jail card here, just in case. No. This is for our Karen, and we'd like to present this to you. Thank you all very much for coming. I know the schedule is kept pretty tight for Irish Fest, but we appreciate your patience and thank you very much. And we all look forward to going to Galway next year.